In the simulator right now, I have an example of what we're going to be doing in this video. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a date picker that if you change the date within this picker, it updates the label right below the picker. And this view is currently using some auto constraints so that the picker shows nicely and the label below it shows nicely. And not only that, with auto constraints, if you change it from landscape to portrait or portrait to landscape, what happens is the view will go ahead and it'll change accordingly, and it'll actually look fairly nice on either one. So let me go ahead and change this back. And what we'll do, like we did with all of the other view controllers, is we'll add in the more section a date picker section so that when they click on it, they'll be taken to this view. So let's go ahead and let's jump into our code and get this started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my main tab bar controller. I'm going to go ahead and just copy or duplicate this line, and what I'll do is I'll name this DateViewController. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna create this in our controllers area. Now, RubyMine offers a really great feature of creating this class for you, and so you might see me do this every once in a while. And what I do is I just click on this light bulb here, click on create new Ruby class. It's going to ask me where I want to create it. I'll click on OK, and then it'll go ahead and create that file for me. So what I'll do is I'll just have that inherit from the UI view controller like we normally do. I'll save this out, and you can see that within my controllers area over here we have DateViewController. So what I'll do is I'll start off with that init method, and I'll go ahead and I'll take it from the map area. So I'll take the init method from here, and I'll paste that in. We're going to use the same resource, and now I believe this will be tag number 7, and this will be date. And what I'll do now is I'll set up the view did load. This will have our title in there, and the title will be date picker. Next, we'll set up that load view area, and in the load view we're going to want to create the labels, and we're going to want to call the constraints, and we're going to place the date picker in there. So I'll go ahead and I'll create some definitions down here, or some methods down here for the view constraints and for the labels. So we have the labels in that own method. That way we can just place the labels in here like this, and the view constraints in there like that as well. And of course we're going to want to set the view to UI view, and we're going to set the view background color to a UI color of white color. That way we can see these labels and everything very clearly. Okay, so next we're going to jump into this labels section, and we're going to start adding in the labels. So the first thing we want to add is the label for, and this will need to be an instance variable that's going to contain the UI label, which will update when we go ahead and we change the picker. So if I go back into the simulator, when we change the picker, we want to set this label up right here. So this is the label that we're going to work on. What we need to do is first set the text, so what it's going to say by default before we even start updating it. And we'll go ahead and just name this date label. And then we're not going to set a frame for this because we're going to be using the view constraints down here, so we can skip that, and we can just jump into text color equals UI color black color, and this is just to make sure that it comes out correctly. And then we're going to add to our view, we're going to add that sub view of the label. Okay, and actually I should rename this from labels to label, since we're only going to include one label here. And then below that label, or actually above this label, we're going to put the picker view. Okay, and I'll change this to label view. Okay, actually let's add an underscore in there to make it look a little nicer and easier to read. And then above this, I'll go ahead and I'll place that picker view. And in this picker view, I'm going to set the picker, and this needs to be an instance variable as well. So we're going to set that picker to a UI picker, or UI date picker. And this will be, of course, a new instance of the UI date picker. And for this date picker, we need to set the mode. So if we go into our documentation and we look up UI date picker, it's going to give you the ability to configure the date picker mode. So what I'll do is I'll take this property and I will set that to a UI date picker mode. And what this allows you to do is choose what's going to be seen within that date picker. What we want is the date picker to show just the date. We don't want it to show the time because that's not what we're setting in this example. But you have the option to go ahead and set the mode to just showing the time, which is going to show you like 12:30 p.m. or a.m. And then for this one will be the date, so it'll be something like July 4th, 2000 and whatever year. And then this will be a date and time, so it'll be both of those combined, and then this would be a countdown timer. So feel free to play with those, but we're going to choose the UI date picker mode of date here, and we will just set that up just like that. So it's going to take that constant just like that. Now what we want to do is we want to add this to our sub view. So I'm going to just take this right here, and I'll copy and paste that in and change this to picker. Just to make sure we don't miss this in the future, let's set up those adder accessors at the top. That way we don't, again, forget to set this up when we're trying to call it through our class. So we have the picker set up, we have the label view set up, and what we want to do now is we want to set up the constraints. So we want to make sure that the picker and the label are showing up correctly within our view. So I'm actually going to go into our main view area, and then I'm going to take this view constraints right here, and I'll just go ahead and I'll replace this whole method right there with that one. And what I'll do is I'll take these two out and I'll rename this field one to picker. All right, so label, that's good, that can stay set. And then for this right here, we want to change this first one, and we want to take out that field. And I'm going to go ahead and instead of putting 50, I'm going to put margin in there. And I'm going to show you what you can do with that. So since we're putting margin in here, what that'll do is it'll stand for that 50 that we put in there before. So that padding or the margin between the sides. And what we need to do is we need to set up a key or a hash. And so we'll call margin and we'll call the margin variable. So we're going to set that variable right here of margin, and it's going to be 20 pixels. So it's going to be, when you call margin, what's going to happen is this is going to replace itself by 20, and this is going to replace itself by that 20 above here. So that's going to look nice. It's going to go ahead and center itself, or it's going to keep itself in the middle, and it's going to keep itself 20 away from the side on the left and right. And we want to do the same thing for the picker. And before that, let's go ahead and remove this field, keep it as label, and let's just duplicate this. And what we'll do is we'll change label to picker, and here as well. And then we'll change this from, we'll change the option here from the align all baseline, and we'll just put trailing there. And we'll remove these two. That way we're just left with our picker and our label. Both of them again have that margin in there, so it's going to give that left and right margin. And right here we're going to change this from top guide, and we're just going to call self top layout guide. Okay, so that's what we're looking for, and we'll take that. So we'll go self dot top layout guide, and this will allow us to make sure it starts underneath that nav bar. And we're going to remove the to-do guide, or we're going to move the to-do button and this button right here, and we will add in the picker. So we'll do picker, and we will associate that with the picker subview. And I'm just going to change all of these double quotes to single quotes, and I can do that very quickly within RubyMine. So just click on this right here, and what will happen is on the left hand side you'll see it see a little light bulb, and what we'll do is we'll convert to single quotes, and I will go ahead and I'll fix all double quote problems in this file, and it'll go ahead and change all those for me. So that looks a lot nicer, a lot cleaner. And now that we have this set up, what we want to do is change this button to label, change the label to picker so that picker comes up first, and then just remove the to do button that we no longer have in that. All right, so this should be working well. We have the constraints, we have the label view, the picker. What we actually want to do is also set up a action. So when the picker changes, we want to make sure that it calls an action, and the action will be update label. So in this update label, we want to set the label.text to the value that's going to be within that date picker view. So what we'll do is we'll get the add target, and I'll go in my documentation here, and we'll get the add target action for control events. So what will happen is, if I just copy that and comment it in there, is we will target ourselves, so target this view controller, set an action, and the action will be update label, and this action will be called when the value changes. So if we go back into our UI date picker, if you read this quick description here, it'll say that the associated control event is UI event value changed. So we can actually just copy this here and paste that into the for controlled or control events UI control event value changed. So when it's changed, it'll go ahead and fire this label. Now, when this label is fired, we actually have to do a couple of things here. Well, first, we have to format the labels. So we have to call nsDateFormatter, and what we'll do is we'll have this format the date style. And so if we look up nsDateFormatter and we look up date style, we can go ahead and put the style for the date and times that we want. And I'll just go ahead and I'll use this nsFormatter medium style, and I'll paste that into this. So it's going to take that constant. And then what we'll do here is we'll make sure that the picker date value gets passed through this formatter. So we're going to do a format string from date, and then it's going to take that picker dot date value. So if you go back into UI date picker, it's going to take this date value or date property right here, and then it'll go ahead and it'll set that label text to that new date. So with all of this done, let's go ahead and let's run our simulator. It's going to override that example that we had in there, and it should work. Actually, I'm noticing some errors within this. You can tell that by the RubyMine little red lines over there. So let's check this out just to make sure. We might have a crash once that starts up, and we do, and it's because we forgot to add margin to our vertical format or vertical view. And we forgot to change this right here to margin. And it looks like we have some curly braces that are missing here. Okay, so now with those fixed, we have that error gone. Let's try rerunning the simulator. It shouldn't crash this time, but let's cross our fingers. All right, here we go. Let's go to more, date, and we do get a crash. So let's see what this crash is. And it looks like we just have a simple error here, and we put too many brackets behind or within the visual constraints. We're seeing it twice because I copied and pasted those errors. And so what we'll do is we'll rerun the simulator. Try this one more time, and we have our date picker. Now what we're expecting is this to change as soon as we change the date picker, and it does. Now, if you remember the previous example, the month was actually spelled out a little bit more. And so let's go back into here and let's change it so that the month is actually spelled out a little more. So what we'll do is we'll go into our formatter, and we notice that we chose the formatter medium style. So I'll copy this and I'll paste that into my documentation, and let's get the full style. Let's see the full date. And so we'll rerun this. We'll go back into our date area, and if we change this, we're now getting the full day, the full month, and the year, of course. So that wraps it up for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in another video. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to creating some more videos for you guys. Until then, have an awesome one.